it's almost like a Gareth Southgate role in changing the culture of the club, which could have a much longer lasting effect or impact than signing players. Ruben Amorim received a lot of criticism last year and earlier this season as well. Rightly so, may I add. I was one of those people criticising him. But my point or my question to you is, how much credit does he deserve for turning it around? I know it's only been, 5 games undefeated or something, but he got a lot of stick for the system when it didn't work. Does he deserve credit now? Or something that I'm going to posit is that he spent 220 million in the summer and he bought 2 players that scored 20 plus Premier League goals each last season. So how much of it is him and how much of it is the system now working?
I think it's a really good question to ask. Football has its ebbs and flows, doesn't it? Is this just a good run of nice fixtures for Manchester United as well? I think, historically, we've always seen that Manchester United are one of the biggest teams, not just in British football, but in world football as well. And people want them to do well. There are some things that Amorim deserves praise of. Probably one of the only things that I would say is the attack is a little bit more exciting, and they're doing a little bit better on corners because they're not doing any out swingers anymore, they're in swingers. But apart from that, I don't think
Which the
much
data
has
told you
really.
years ago as well.
Yeah, really, he's just kind of catching up with the trend. So overall, I don't think he deserves that much praise, especially kind of looking at the defensive numbers as well. That was probably the biggest area that Manchester United need improving on. They've actually got worse this year. So kind of looking at from your fan perspective, is there anything that I'm missing out on? Am I being too harsh, or do you think that actually I'm about right in that Amorim has slightly improved things, but nothing special?
They've increased in terms of chances created and goals scored and stuff this season, but that is because they've brought in 2 players that scored 20 Premier League goals. So that's why it was a question to myself really as well. How much credit does Amorim deserve for this? Because what would happen if me or you were the manager and we were struggling to get results and then we signed Brian and Burmo and Mateus Cunha?
Yeah.
There's going to be an increase in the number of goals. There's going to be increase in the number of chances created as well. You've also spent however much on a striker. I do think, though, an important point for Amorim is that they spent 220 million in the transfer window. Okay. Arnie Slot spent 450 odd million, and look what they've ended up.
Yeah.
Also, that's not down to the manager, of course, it's the recruitment, but the manager will, without a doubt, will have a say. But I think maybe the more potent stat for me is that they sold 307 million pounds worth of talent. They didn't get that much for it because it's Man United and they buy high and sell low. But Anthony, Højlund, Onana, Sancho, players that they've spent 95, 77, 50, 85 million on in recent seasons, Amorim has made that decision and the club has allowed him to make the decisions to get rid of them. And I think that is probably more effective than the players signed.
Yeah, I'd actually like to add to that as well, because, for all the criticisms that I have of Amorim, I do think the psychology of the players at the club has improved. So we've seen it kind of
Exactly.
previous seasons. Man United would give up the ghost in so many games. They'd go behind. That was it. And to be fair to them, this season they have been, struggling on, fighting. Maybe they don't see the game out, but they give it their all till the very end.
The
And
Brighton game,
yeah,
when we conceded that the second goal, and I was thinking a couple of seasons, or last season, there's no way that we win that game. We end up drawing, the players' heads go, they lose all faith and the heads start dropping. But the opposite happened. We go and score. And again, it was in Burmo, a player that scored 20 Premier League goals last season, which is why I think the manager deserves credit maybe for the players sold more than the players brought in, because it's almost like a Gareth Southgate role in changing the culture of the club, which could have a much longer lasting effect or impact than signing players in one
yeah.
sense.
The other area that I'd like to focus on as a negative here, though, and I don't know, we've kind of bantered about it so many times. It's these weird substitutions that he does in game, and it almost cost him at the weekend as well. The kind of 5 substitutes were played, and so Benjamin Šeško comes off because you don't have any substitutions left. But it's these bizarre centre backs coming on or off the pitch. I mean,
Hey, I made a TikTok. Exactly about this, Jason, and I got a bit of abuse for it. But I basically said that I think Amorim might be a bit thick. I
Yeah,
think that's it, because his football tactics you can question. Of course, we all have done at some point or another. But what is the point in bringing off a centre back as a waste of a substitution? It doesn't affect the game at all.
yeah.
They're both like ball playing centre backs. It's normally sort of Yoro coming on for one of the three centre backs. Say if it's Maguire, it's someone that steps out and plays the pass anyway. I got a lot of stick because people said Maguire had a hamstring injury. Okay, so this was a kind of exception to the rule, but he makes that substitution every single game anyway.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
it makes no sense. He then got caught making 5 subs and then we ended up playing with 10 players. And yeah, okay, that was the one game that it actually needed to happen. So maybe he has an excuse, but he does it every game. So I'm surprised it's not bitten him on the arse before.
Yeah, I think the thing is you kind of understand game management, tweaking teams, all that sort of thing. But it's the fact that it's such a repetitive thing as well. It is the
It's like
inexplicable
he's got
nature.
OCD.
Yeah, it's like he has an obsession that centre backs can change the game. Forget midfielders, forget strikers. It is those centre backs. It's Harry
Yeah.
Maguire with his big slab head who's going to change, a game when you're 1-0 down. That's not the way that
I
you do
mean, he
it.
has done that, to be fair, a few times.
Maybe that's where we're wrong then. Maybe Amorim is the footballing genius, because who scored the goal against Tottenham? It was a centre back. It was De Ligt. So really, we're the ones wrong here.